elimination.
B-31. November of 2013, an iceberg known as B-31 broke off from Antarctica's Pine Island Glacier. It was over 240 square miles and was approximately 6 times the size of New York City's Manhattan Island.
So
After the initial impact, the massive iceberg soon began to break down into smaller fragments and was pulled away into the Atlantic Sea. The first images of the B-31 were captured by NASA's Aqua satellite following the southern hemisphere winter. When southern winter fell in May 2014, darkness spread across the southern hemisphere. The iceberg could not be seen for 6 months. Pine Island Glacier itself has been monitored for several decades. Scientists all over the world are interested in the fate of this glacier, as it's been thinning and draining very fast and is thought to be one of the largest contributors to sea level rise. Before we move on, be sure to subscribe to Top 5s with notifications on. Number 7. B-17B. The giant iceberg, known as the B-17B, calved off the Ross Ice Shelf in 1999. The iceberg was the size of Paris, measured approximately 54 square miles. NASA and the European Space Agency have been following and tracking the iceberg's journey, and the first satellite images were released in December of 2009. According to scientists and glaciologists, the iceberg had already shrunk in size with smaller pieces calving off from the B-17B. As of 2009, the giant iceberg has been traveling on a path towards Western Australia. The B-17B managed to stay intact and to retain its original size by acting as a self-preservation mechanism. It has been in contact with relatively cold water for much of its journey, for its draft track took the B-17B across from the cold Antarctic waters to much warmer waters. Number 6. Larsen B Ice Shelf. In 2002, during the Southern Hemisphere summer, scientists who were monitoring daily satellite images of the Antarctic Peninsula were quickly left in amazement. They watched as the entire Larsen B Ice Shelf collapsed and split in just 1 month. Glaciologists have never witnessed such a large collapse so quickly.
Bro,
Over 250
I didn't even
square
click and my thing was
miles
still
of ice
shooting.
disintegrated from January to March of 2002.
Like, hey, yo.
As this event was unusual by past standards, professional researchers and scientists quickly put the blame on climate change and global warming. The Larsen B Shelf was named a hotspot of global warming, and that's why it took around 3 weeks for the ice shelf to break off. But other factors also contributed to the rapid disintegration. Warm ocean temperatures in the Weddell Sea occurred during the same period, might have caused thinning and melting of the underside of the ice shelf. Based on studies of the ice flow and the thickness of the ice shelf, scientists believe that the Larsen Ice Shelf had existed for over 400 years prior to this event. But Larsen B wasn't the first glacier to break off. The first, Larsen A Ice Shelf, disintegrated in January of 1995, and over 20 years later, the Larsen C, or the iceberg A68, broke off in 2017. But we've already covered that.
What are you doing?
Number 5. The Ailes Ice Shelf. In August of 2015, the Ailes Ice
Honestly,
Shelf
that
located on Ellesmere Island in northern Canada started to break off and form a giant ice island. It is believed to be the largest shelf breakup in Canada over 40 years. The newly formed island was approximately 25 square miles and was first detected when the Canadian Ice Service was reviewing satellite images of the island. The same day, NASA's Terra satellite captured images of the ice shelf. The event was linked to global warming, as years 2002 through 2005 showed us unusually warm climates in the Arctic, which caused a strong decline in overall sea ice. According to scientists, the Ellesmere Island had already lost 90% of its ice shelves. While the theory of human-caused global warming can't fully be proven, the rapidly growing temperatures in the Arctic dictates otherwise. But what makes the Ailes Ice Shelf calving so remarkable? The answer is the speed at which it broke off. It was recorded to break free in less than an hour. Number 4. A38. The Filchner-Ronne Ice Shelf is an Antarctic ice shelf that borders the Weddell Sea. In 1998, what is now known as the A38 split from the ice shelf, and is thought to be the largest iceberg that has ever been observed in a decade, spanning over more than 90 miles. The iceberg later started to split and divide into 3 parts. The A38B was originally part of the massive A38 iceberg, and was first captured by satellites in October of 1998. As scientists and glaciologists followed the iceberg's journey for many years, they noticed that a piece had drifted around South Georgia Island. In April 2004, the A38B iceberg split in half. The split was recorded in a series of moderate resolution imaging spectral radiometer images, also known as the MODIS images. The images show just how quickly the pieces started to separate and travel in their own paths. Number 3. Spencer Glacier. If anyone wants to take a look at a glacier close up, they can visit the Spencer Glacier in Alaska. The iceberg rises to 3,500 feet and offers guided and unguided hiking tours. You can take a tour by boat, kayak, or you can simply hike alongside with your friends down the lakeside trail.
Oh,
Visitors must first float across Spencer Lake to get up close to the icebergs. Panoramic views of Spencer Glacier can be seen. Next, they can enjoy a 4-mile hike along the lakeside trail with trained professionals and tour guides that offer quick lessons about history and glaciology. Finally, visitors all over the world can take a 2-mile kayaking trip down along the icebergs. The whole tour takes around 6 hours to complete, and visitors can arrive and depart by train. The video was posted to YouTube on August 13, 2019, where a piece of Spencer Glacier breaks off. This video offers an incredible point of view, as the visitors who are kayaking capture every moment of the 50-foot ice calving. From the initial breakoff to the aftermath the iceberg produced, these visitors witnessed how the impact of the iceberg produced 12-foot high waves. The visitors describe how they were hit with the chunks of flying ice and buckets of water. They even admitted they were lucky to be alive, as this experience might have ended tragically for the kayaking tourists. But instead, they captured one of the rarest points of view of an ice calving. Number 2. Brunt Ice Shelf. Bordering the coastland of Antarctica is the Brunt Ice Shelf that is inevitable to break off sooner or later. Back in January of 2019, cracks in the ice were captured by the Landsat 8 and Operational Land Imager satellites. The first crack appeared in late October of 2016 and has been named the Halloween Crack. The iceberg that will eventually break off will be twice the size of New York City, located west of the McDonald Ice Rumbles. Scientists confirmed the crack recently started to accelerate as fast as 4 kilometers every year. When the crack cuts all the way across, the area of ice lost from the shelf will likely be at least 660 square miles, and it might be the biggest iceberg to break from the Brunt Ice Shelf. John Greger, glaciologist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, commented about the upcoming calving event. The near-term future of Brunt Ice Shelf likely depends on where the existing rifts merge relative to the McDonald Ice Rumples. If they merge upstream, south of the McDonald Ice Rumples, then it's possible that the ice shelf will be destabilized. But the break itself may be harmful to hundreds of people who operate nearby. All year long, researchers at the British Antarctica Survey's Halley Station work on the shelf. Chris Schumann, a NASA glaciologist, commented about how the Brunt Ice Shelf calving may be a cause of concern. The likely future loss of the ice on the other side of the Halloween crack suggests that more instability is possible, with associated risk to Halley. Honorable mentions.
I'm about to get my
Now,
stupid
in honorable mentions, let's take a look at remarkable and memorable icebergs that have not shown any signs of deteriorating just yet. Inarsuit
I'm
Iceberg.
about to just
Inarsuit
use
is a
my
small
stupid
island village located in northwest Greenland. In July of 2018,
well, my
headlines all
stupid
over
needs
the
to
world were
charge
made
up.
when an iceberg weighing more than 10 million tons decided to park itself just offshore of the village. Residents of the Inarsuit Island were warned by the authorities that the 300-foot high iceberg could cause a massive flood. Search and rescue helicopters were set close to the remote village that offered a way out to its 180 inhabitants. As it was unusual for large icebergs to come so close to the village, residents were extremely shocked to find out how big this iceberg truly was. William Kobler, a researcher at the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland, has stated that iceberg production in Greenland has been increasing in the past 100 years as climate change has become stronger. Soon after its initial appearances, cracks and holes started to appear, which could one day lead to a catastrophic calving that could flood the entire village in a matter of minutes. 2-minute video footage was posted on YouTube that showed a small chunk of ice breaking from the iceberg and sent waves rippling through the harbor. But luckily, the iceberg that threatened the whole village has now since moved on. Time-lapse footage shows how the iceberg travels slowly and departs itself from the Inarsuit village of Greenland. The inhabitants were more than happy to see the hazardous iceberg travel away, as most had evacuated their homes in order to stay safe. The tallest iceberg. We've already covered numerous enormous icebergs. You might be thinking to yourself, what's the tallest iceberg in the world? According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the tallest iceberg captured was located in the North Atlantic. The iceberg towers a shocking 550 feet high, and it extends out to the water almost to the height of the Washington Monument. As it is characteristic for 85% of the iceberg's volume to be below sea levels, It comes as a surprise to witness such a high level of the iceberg above the sea level. The tallest known iceberg was first captured in the early 1950s and was first sighted in Melville Bay, Greenland. And although not a lot of information is known about the path the iceberg took, where it eventually parked itself, it is still remarkable to know the tallest iceberg in the world was 550 feet high. Number 1. Jakob Schaman